Because the thing is that, as you mentioned, you can't tell the story of St Tropez in the 60s without the music, because people there would dance. There's a big dancing scene in the film. So what happened is that when I was writing The Golden Age and researching, I interviewed so many people who opened their hearts to me, like telling me war stories, love stories.
Just can't be satisfied. I just can't keep on crying.
I'm joined today with writer, director, and producer Jenna Suru from Belle Epoque Films. How you doing?
Hi Presh, thank you so much for having me. I'm great, actually. It's such a beautiful studio here. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. I wanted to talk about your film, The Golden Age, or L'Âge d'Or.
Yes.
And how did, conceptually, it's very, very interesting, kind of dealing with, 60s St Tropez and these two, star-crossed lovers. Well, I don't want to spoil the film.
Yes.
Like you describe, your film, L'Âge d'Or, and how you came up with the concept and what's it about.
Yes, well, the concept really is really special. The Golden Age tells a story that's never been told on the screen before. I wanted it to be really exciting for the audience. And it's a tribute to the world-changing charms of 60s St Tropez. It's a tribute to artists and people in general who struggle to bring change. And it's really the story of their journey that we live through those two characters. So there is this Franco-American producer who flees the Vietnam War and arrives in Paris in his mother's footsteps. He meets this French theater actress, Angèle Deveau, that I'm in the film. And she is a very talented actress, but she acts in front of empty seats in empty Parisian theaters. Together, they're separated by an ocean, and also at the time in the 60s, there was no internet, so distances are even bigger than today. Mm-hmm. But what's wonderful is that they realize they share something really true and special. They don't fit in this world, and they just feel super related in this world and want to bring change. So they decide to embark on an artistic project together, and they arrive in a village, but this village is St Tropez, and this is where it all begins.
And this is your directorial feature-length debut, as I understand.
Absolutely, yes.
And I guess it's kind of daunting to, embark on that, first feature-length film. What made you feel that this is the kind of, out of all the ideas I have, this is the story that I need to tell?
Many things. You're absolutely right. It's a very ambitious film. We filmed in 35 exceptional locations in Paris, south of France, Los Angeles. And the film became the latest drama fiction that's ever been filmed in and around Notre Dame before it burned down in April. And it's a very ambitious film. So when I wrote it, I knew this was going to be a very big step for me, but I wanted this. I wanted this to happen. I wanted this step for my debut direct feature to be ambitious. But what really motivated me is my passion for the story. So there are several signs. First, I come from a distribution background. So when I wrote the story, I made sure I really have the audience in mind. I know what excites them, and especially not just the French audience, but also really from over the world, UK, US, Asia, because we're all in love with stories in the end. It's just important to have something that's really exciting and that really pushes us and will passionate people around the world with no frontier. What really made me understand this was my debut feature is that first, I was absolutely convinced this story is extremely important to tell. Like, for instance, I don't know if you feel like this, but I do feel like this sometimes. When I was writing the script, I would read the news and I would feel, Jesus, this is so depressing.
Yeah.
What's happening? It's awful, and you feel so tiny. Back in the years when I was 20, I shot a short documentary in India about homeless children. And it's true that when you see something in this world, you really feel very weak because you feel you're so tiny and there is so much that needs to be changed. And I realized I was far from the only person to feel like this. And I think today there are many people, especially the youth, who wants to bring change, or the Z generation who doesn't fit in. And in the 60s, it was exactly the same. There were so many people, especially the youth, who felt very elated in this post-World War. And they found, all these inventions that were invented in the early 60s, 50s. They were like, oh, that's great, but this time we're not going to war with them. And so I think it's a really important message for today's generations. The second point is that things change, and even Notre Dame Cathedral, apparently, even the things you love the more, things can disappear. And St Tropez changes too, and Tropesians, they do such a wonderful job because they love the authenticity of this village so much. When Brigitte Bardot went in the 60s, people are so authentic, and this is why artists love this village. But things change, and so I wanted this film to happen because I want to keep this very precious village alive through the film, so that people can see it as it is, and not through just VFX. Like see it as it was too in the 60s.
And how was it like, kind of, obviously St Tropez is one of the 35 locations that you filmed in, and how was it like kind of going back there and discovering the history around St Tropez and what that meant to artists, and how was that process like for you?
It's been the most magical thing ever, because for many reasons. First, when I arrived in St Tropez, the first thing that really moved me, and moves me still, is the light. The light in the south of France is really special and beautiful. In St Tropez, there is just something special. It's so moving. You understand why so many artists found inspiration there, and why so many painters went to really describe feelings. For my filmmaking, I inspire a lot from films, but also from music and paintings. And this light is one of the key elements that makes this village so special. The second thing is, as you mentioned is the history. When Brigitte Bardot went there to film God Created Women, all these films, all the bands that went there, especially at the time, but really it's become like a hub for artistic inspiration. And this history is really important. It's part of our patrimoine. It's part of also what made such artists geniuses, what inspired them. It's their fuel in a way. And there's also a third thing that really moved me, is the authenticity of the people that are there, Tropesians. Because at the time, if artists loved this village, it was also because it was a fishing village. So when you go, exactly, you could be very famous. Yeah. Either people wouldn't know, or they just would treat you as a normal person, which is really important because they're so authentic. And so you could be literally super famous or no one if you're an artist and you love what you do. Whoever you are, they will help you. And it's something that really moved me because I wrote and directed the Golden Age to tell this story. And in my modest, humble way, I realized that now I kind of became one of those artists because I also told the story. Yeah. And it was something I didn't expect. I just realized that I became one of those artists really who went there, found inspiration, told the story, and just felt this incredible
feeling sort of comes full circle, and you kind of understand that journey that all these artists have taken.
Exactly. It's something that's just incredible. You can't think of something better in your artistic life, in your career. It means so much, especially as your debut feature.
And on the topic of artistry, music plays a fundamental kind of point in the film, and so you've kind of looked to, I guess, early rock and early rock and roll and inspirations. I think you mentioned Chuck Berry as like an
yes.
I mean, how do you pull together the music that kind of describes the backdrop of L'Âge d'Or?
Yes, it was so inspiring because the thing is that, as you mentioned, you can't tell the story of St Tropez in the 60s without the music, because people there would dance. There's a big dancing scene in the film. So what happened is that when I was writing The Golden Age and researching, I interviewed so many people who opened their hearts to me, like telling me war stories, love stories, what it felt to be like back then. Because back then, no internet again, it's like everything was so different. You're right. You would live differently. You would eat differently. The way you would have a conversation would be different because you wouldn't have to check your phone, or it's so different. things were so special. And so when I researched that, I also watched a lot of documentaries. And so usually what happened is that I would see this documentary, and I remember when I heard I saw in the documentary the Stones singing that song, I Can't Be Satisfied, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And so I really chose my titles like that, and I went to the licensor, and I think they really understood the story, that it was a film that had never been done before. They found it was really special, and so they really helped a lot, because we recorded the music before filming.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting, because to me, at first, I love music, and music is really important in the film, but also because there is big dancing scene on the harbor. I absolutely wanted to have a real music we would use for the film, so we can dance exactly on the right music during the filming. So that was really exciting.
And you, just kind of on a moving forward on that point, you actually you spend a lot of time between both England and France in your work. It would be interesting to someone who has that kind of duality. What do you find are the differences in the stories we tell, or the film audiences between both France and England, or are they very similar?
Oh, I think every country, every territory has similarities, but also things that are different. To me, the UK really inspired me. I think the way we do filmmaking here is different from France. France has such a strong cinema, such an inspiring cinema. What I think is really incredible here in the UK is that, well, filmmakers have such a new approach of filmmaking. Like, it's so incredible. When I moved here in the UK, I just opened my company, Belly Park Film, which is an official French feature film company, but I actually had just moved to London. And so when one of my very first films was The Bigger Picture, with Robert Sheehan from Misfits, and now he's really famous because of the Umbrella Academy. So very British, you know? It's like, it could be any more British than that. Our DP was Oscar nominated, so that was wonderful. And it started like that, and I was amazed by how much I learned from filmmakers here, and how they think out of the box, how inspired they are. Ken Loach is also a very big inspiration. His cinema is
big
really...
fan of his. Yeah.
Right. I remember when I saw I, Daniel Blake at Cannes, it was such a magical moment, because what I picked from him is, first, his cinema is very generous. It has really strong messages about people struggling, solidarity, and I think you can really feel that in the Golden Age. And what I really appreciate from him is the way you watch the film. It's a film, it's a fiction, it's not a documentary, but it feels so true. Like, characters are so human, and it's something I absolutely love. I think it's real cinema. Like, you can really feel the story, you can really feel you can hear their heartbeat almost.
Yeah. And on that note, in terms of like our stories and our differences and similarities, so Parasite just won Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yes.
And would you say this is like being a kind of French film, a watershed moment for, I guess, English-speaking kind of countries to kind of open up their eyes and ears to actually like different foreign quote-unquote language films, and their perception of, actually, you know what, this is, whatever the film is, wherever it's from, I'd like to see this. Do you think we're in that sort of watershed moment?
Absolutely, I do. I absolutely agree with that, because, as you said, Parasite won Best Picture. I think it's the first non-English movie to win Best Picture, and I think indeed it's a good message, and in the way it really reveals something that is happening now is that our audiences are more and more open. The world is more open. You watch a lot more content that's not necessarily from your country. So I think there's a real shift in people just being eager to watch these types of movies, and not just the same movie. Also, I think it's something really important, is that people are more willing to even read subtitles now. It's something that's been proven even by distributors. Like, people are more open to that than before. And I think it's also because cinema is a popular art. So it used to be, back in the time, something really hard to make, like, especially when it was just film, no digital. it was a lot more pricey. Everything was more difficult. So now I think with time, when you think about it, cinema is a really young art. When you compare it with writing or painting or sculpting, cinema is a baby. And I think it's taking time. It took its time to kind of reach the audiences and also reach the countries that try to push their populations to really get into the nitty-gritty of filmmaking and just go for it. And I think it's starting to really shape up now. So that's really exciting because it means that it will give also more voices from around the world, and we need that. Like America, the UK have such a strong cinema, France too. We also need every country, like everyone, to have a voice. And there are some countries today where it's really hard to make a film still. And because they don't have film school, because they don't necessarily have so many models who can inspire them in their country. And I think it's starting, and I really hope that movies like Parasite will push this. It's like also the golden age in our modest way. I was interviewed and made the headlines of Écran Total on Cannes, where it made its debut on the market last May, because the golden age is one of the very first, if not the first, French films to be made in this way, like in a more modern way, which means that basically most movies would be done under a more traditional way in France for the business model, and this is more open to the new modern way of doing filmmaking. So it's very exciting. Yes, we're really happy because the Golden Age is opening the London Independent Film Festival on March the 13th. So tickets will be out very soon. And we're really happy because the film has a great success in the US for the premieres. We won Best Foreign Feature in Massachusetts, and to have the European premiere in London in the Genesis Cinema, which is a wonderful, beautiful cinema, opening the festival is a wonderful recognition, and it will be also a great place to discuss filmmaking and the film. I'll be speaking on the Q&A after. There will be a red carpet before, so we're looking forward to seeing you there.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.